Just because this property is a great bedding property doesn't mean you can't draw them in with a food plot of your own.
What's the best apple to plant for deer? That's really a loaded question because there is no one right strain of apple to plant for deer. The best apples to plant for deer it's based on a number of things, and I know this by experience. It's a lot of trial and error. There are literally dozens of strains of apples you can plant depending upon where you live. The first thing you have to understand is you have to plant a tree that is, well, trees, plural, that are hardy for the region where you live. I live on the northern cusp of range, and I want cold hardy trees. I want trees that are going to survive. Apple trees are an investment. You've got to plant trees and think years out, 4, 5, 6, 10 years out. What's that tree going to be if it's going to survive? Number one is where you live. Number two is the flowering rates. You need different strains of apple trees to pollinate. They got to be cross-pollinated. Yeah, there's a couple strains that are self-pollinating. I don't worry about those. I want really good trees. I'm going to plant several varieties so they can cross-pollinate. There's about 7 flowering zones for apple trees. And everybody thinks, oh, you should really stagger that, and because you want apples in early season and mid-season and late season. I'm not saying that doesn't work, but normally guys that say that haven't planted apple trees and they don't know too much about apple trees. In a perfect world, that would be great. In reality, what I want to do is I want to plant trees that are going to be in overlapping pollination zones, meaning that in a week or two of each other, and therefore you're going to get a good pollination rate on your trees. The other thing you want to keep in mind is you want to plant, like I say, you need several varieties. Don't just plant 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 trees if you can. Obviously, quality is the best thing, but quantity is going to help you on apple trees. But that being said, don't go plant 20 or 30 or 50 trees if you got that much land at one time. You do want to pace yourself out. So what I recommend, if you have the land, if let's say you can plant in, I call it an orchard, let's say you can plant an orchard of 20 or 30 trees, I'm going to plant 5 to 8 one year, 5 to 8 the next year, and I'm going to space it out that way. And I'm going to stagger those trees that I'm not planting all haloreds in a row and all galas in a row, or all, state fair trees, or these are Wolf River trees. I'm not going to plant a bunch of those in the same area because they're not going to get good pollination rates. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stagger those trees. That's going to allow the pollination to occur, and it's going to allow those trees probably better survival. One last tip I'm going to give you when planting apple trees: if you think you got them planted too far away, you probably don't. They need to be within 50 feet of each other for pollination. So if I have, let's say, a Wolf River tree here and a halored tree over there, 50 feet is about the maximum, for cross-pollination. But if you plant them too close, and these 2 trees here are actually planted too close, they're mature trees now. They're both Wolf River trees. The previous landowner cut down the other apple trees, so I'm going to have a really hard time pollinating these trees, so I have to plant some other trees to get some pollination. Give yourself enough space. I recommend 25 feet between trees. That's going to allow sunlight to get in there, especially when you prune them, and it's going to allow the bees to do their work once spring comes.
Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by PH Outdoors. Coming up next on DDH Properties.
Those trees, if I'm in this for the long haul, are the trees I want to plant. Container trees, for the most part, you deal with a lot of problems.
Deer and Deer Hunting Properties is brought to you by Spy Point Trail Cameras.
First thing you should consider before planting any apple trees, whether that is for deer hunting or just personal use, is do you have the right property for it? Do you have the right sun exposure for it? And do you have If you want to do it for deer hunting, apple plot, do you have enough land for it? Those are the things that you should consider. And then when we dive deeper into that weeds is what type of land do you have? This is stuff you all have to consider, because do you have rocky soil? Do you have sandy soil? Do you have sandy loam? Soil is critical for apple trees, as is sun exposure, and there's many other elements. But I guess the first thing you should consider is, what are your expectations? Most people run out and, like you said, they see an apple tree. Oh, cool. And I just saw this recently. Oh, cool. We want to have apples for our yard. And then they see, oh, these are only whatever, if they're at Fleet Farm or Jung's or another place. I'm not giving, those are just places around here, but like an orchard. Normally you get what you pay for with apple trees. And also, the growers of these mass trees, not to bash on them, but it's not a one size fits all. So they give out a tree that for the most part works for your region, but a lot of times it doesn't. So you really need to study that first, because they're not cheap. To put apple trees in is expensive, even if you're putting one, or if you're putting 100 of them in. But I say the first thing you should do is really map it out. And that's where people get all excited. It's like, oh man, I'm going to put an apple plot here. But slow yourself down, find out what kind of soil you have, what kind of sun exposure you have, and what are some of the other things that are going to be working against that tree once you get it in the ground. Kinds and varieties, those should be the next two things. Okay, number one, figure out what you want to do, where you want to do it. The types of trees. Standard and semi-dwarf, I'm going to say, are probably, for everybody in the country, is the tree are one of two of the types of trees. So standard trees are the traditional trees that you see. They are slow growing, enormously productive. Semi-dwarfs were developed for production faster. So you have to think about that. So everybody'd say, well, I want semi-dwarf because I want apples faster. That's the problem. So with standard trees, the average length. Okay, so wait, we gotta stop. I gotta add more to it. So a standard tree or a semi-dwarf. Those are your options, pretty much. And then you have to go back down to, is it going to be a container tree? And that's where I talk about, like, I say Fleet Farm because that's what we have, but I know there's other farm stores across the country, probably Tractor Supply and other places like that, where you go outside and you see the apple tree. It's in a big pot, and you can buy it like that. That's called a container tree, or a bare root tree. So you got to decide. There's a lot of decisions. What's the difference between bare root and container? Container tree, that tree's already 5, 6, 7 feet tall or taller. It's got a nice stem. You're looking at ahead of the game. As opposed to a bare root tree, you go to a nursery and you get that tree, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It is a stick, and it's got the bare roots. Those trees, if I'm in this for the long haul, are the trees I want to plant. Container trees, for the most part, you deal with a lot of problems. You deal with what they call girdling roots. So that tree has been grown in a container for 2, 3, 4 years sometimes. And those roots are all contained in a root ball that even if you remove that container and you slice the roots to get them to expand, those roots have been trained to stay in that pot, and those roots will grow a lot of times, not all the time, a lot of times in the ground that way. And eventually that kills that tree within 10 to 15 years. Not always, but it's a risk I don't want to take.
Coming up next on DDH Properties.
But I just couldn't bring myself on my first day of the hunt to put an arrow in it. Now, I gotta be honest, I made a mistake there. That deer was a stud.
Beautiful day in mid-August in Wisconsin, and we're putting up a brand new Orion blind, hot off the presses today. Super excited to get that up here. I got Noah helping me. He's gonna help me put this up today. It's a two-man job at best. It's really easy to install and put up. The nice thing about this Orion blind is we don't need any heavy machinery. Our 2 pickup trucks, we backed it up, pulled it off. So I'm excited we're gonna get this done real fast, get it up there and get ready for hunting season. We picked a spot, probably one of my favorite spots on my property. They love to cut through this elbow, I call it. So during the rut or even pre-rut, they'll come out and check what I got for food out here. But the bucks during the rut, they love to come scent check, take a look and see what's going on for doe actions. So this corner is a big time favorite of mine.
This is crazy easy, you guys. Like probably one of the easiest tree stands I've ever put together, including ladder stands. All right, we got the base set up here. Now we're gonna put the blind on top, get the windows in place. Keep in mind when you're putting this in, make sure you have your shooting lanes kind of figured out already with a bow, so you have your 4 corners set up, or gun, or crossbow. But make sure you have that set up. It makes it for a lot easier installation when you have that in mind. This Orion blind, we're gonna place it so we're kind of covering the bedding areas. We can see in the woods. It's a real good evening spot when they're coming out of their bedding area, so we're excited about that. Well, this is it. Took off all the plastic of the windows. Shooting lanes have lined up. We'll do some trimming, and then we're on to shooting that monster buck. I'm excited. Let's get this done. If you're interested in purchasing one of these Orion blinds, go to huntorion.com. Check out their awesome selection of blinds for everyone.
Each year, Mark Kaiser tries to help his friend Greg manage his farm in Kansas, where the management bucks are what most hunters' dreams are made of.
Every fall, I try to get down to Kansas and hunt at least a week, if not 2, trying to find a Kansas giant. Got a great friend down there, Greg Gilman. He's a realtor in the area. In fact, he specializes in wildlife hunting properties. People are managing their properties all over this part of Kansas now. So even if you don't have that big buck on your property, come November 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, a big buck could stroll in from anywhere looking for an estrus doe. Day 1, who strolls in? Right under my tree stand, but Junior. He's a beautiful 5x5, and he was spending a lot of time chasing does under my stand, from 25 to 30 yards, all the way down to 15 yards. But I just couldn't bring myself on my first day of the hunt to put an arrow in it. Now, I gotta be honest, I made a mistake there. That deer was a stud. And from then on, my encounters with that deer were sparse and limited and always distant. I could have had the hunt of a lifetime within a few hours of being in the stand, and I was boots on the ground in Kansas, and I elected to pass. But that's hunting. You make your decisions and you live with them.
It's day 1 on a dream hunt in Kansas, and a beautiful 5x5 walks by and gives you all day to make a perfect shot. What do? Well, generally speaking, the rule for hunters is that you should never pass up a buck on day 1 that you would gladly shoot on the last day. That said, if you've ever made a decision to pass up a nice buck before, then you've felt the heart rate that comes with that choice, and the anxiety of not knowing whether or not you made the right decision as your hunt starts to near its end. No one is immune to uncertainty when it comes to whitetail hunting. No one.
Days 2, 3, and 4 passed by rather quickly, and I really didn't get in close to any bucks. We were checking trail cameras, checking the different blinds, putting up some new stands, making sure everything was in place, and making sure we were getting all the intel. That's when Greg pointed out another buck. He said, this older 5x5 is, I think, one of the bucks you should target. He was short on a couple of his points, but had decent mass and good height on his brows and his 2s and 3s. I was game, and this deer was a player. He was showing up everywhere. So that was going to be my focus buck. Back down in my little oak hollow down there where I just loved to go, my target buck showed up. He came in quartering to me, never giving me a good broadside shot. And if there's one thing I've learned after all of these years of bow hunting is always wait for the perfect shot. Overnight, the forecast changed to almost 100% rain the next morning. It was foggy that morning, still drizzling. We got in the blinds, set up. Over an hour had passed. It was probably almost an hour and a half into 2 hours. And Greg was thinking maybe nothing was gonna happen. Maybe we should just get out, go check some other cameras, think about a new plan for the afternoon. When out of the corner of his eye, he said, oh, here comes a deer. Right below us, out of some cedar trees, comes the buck. I didn't wait. He was gonna pass right under the blind. Gotta be honest, the hit was farther back than I wanted. I was jacked up, I was excited, but the last sight of that buck, he was really hurt. He was walking off, and this here whole thing here, this is the Flint Hills of Kansas. This is all canyons. He's not gonna wanna go off any of these cliffs if he doesn't have to, and he went right to a cliff face. So hopefully he held up there, tipped over. That's the hope anyway. I'm really hoping I get so stressed out about this when you're tracking. This is a good sign that this cliff is... Right there. He didn't go anywhere at all. I can practically see the blind from right here. This is why I love coming to Kansas. Good genetics, big bucks, great management, and not only is Greg doing some really good management here, but his neighbors are. They're all doing good management, so you got bucks crisscrossing property lines, and this is the result. I hit him just a tad far back, but I thought the shot was good enough that it hit enough vitals, and the arrow showed frothy blood, good red blood. This buck did not go anywhere. I couldn't be happier with Kansas. It's always on my hit list. It's a great destination to hunt, beautiful bucks, gorgeous country, and good friends here in Kansas.
Most of the apple trees being grown today commercially, like I said, Washington State. But my personal favorite is the University of Minnesota. And they came up with, and I cannot remember the gentleman's name, and I wish I could, because he is the father of apple trees for the upper Midwest. And the thinking there was back in I think it was about the 1950s, everybody said, if you're going to grow apple trees, you need stock from New York. There's no other way. And he said, we can grow them here in Minnesota, and I'm going to prove it. Well, he not only proved it, they have a whole agronomy system there at the University of Minnesota that I drove from my house to Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, which isn't far from the Twin Cities of Minnesota, for a nursery to buy the strains that were specifically bred for this region.